Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our weekly webinar, just to review the Kinderlime system and help make everyone pros on using it. Today, we're going to be reviewing the lead CRM, how to set that up, how to configure it, and as well as review some of the new features that we've added to it in the last 2 weeks, and we've added a lot, so it's really exciting. Here at the Kinderlime team, we just want to help make sure you guys are as efficient as you need to be in your day-to-day, help reduce the paper and pen that you have to use, and get everything into one system. We'll start with the lead CRM, and at the end, we'll open it up for questions. If anyone has any questions on the GoToWebinar, I think on the screen, you should see a place to enter your questions and send those over. I'll have time at the end to answer those, go over. So if there's anything you want me to clarify, if there's a question that may not even be lead CRM, feel free to send that over and let me know. And that way I can take the time to review that later on. But let's go ahead and get started. Again, just keep an eye on your questions. It should say questions in GoToWebinar, so that way you can enter those in and I'll see them as they come. Starting off with the lead CRM, our intention with this is to help you manage and organize your wait list and those incoming students who are enrolling in your program. You're able to set up your own registration page, and I'll show you how to configure that in a moment. And as those leads come in, they will appear on this page here that you should be seeing on your screen. You'll see that they have different statuses. So our defaults are waitlisted, interested, toured, admitted, and enrolled. If your enrollment pipeline is different, you have the full ability to tailor this to your own enrollment pipeline. The whole purpose of these drop-down menus are, so you can see exactly where they are within that pipeline and organize and kind of keep track of it. To organize that list, it'd be here under configure, and this is where you kind of manage the lead CRM. If you want to change that drop-down menu, it's just here under manage lead status, and you're able to change it. Waitlisted and enrolled, those are the first step is what they come into as waitlisted. You can change the name if you prefer something else. And then enrolled, again, you can also change that. So that way, whatever you want to call it when it's time for them to join your active student list. When you do change their status to whatever you have it named as the last one, whether that's enrolled or something else, when you change that drop-down menu to, we'll call it enrolled right now, that's when the students will move to My School and your students list, so you can see them all right there. Once a student does move here, you still have access to their lead CRM details. So right under where their pictures should be, it would be here, view lead details. If you click that open, it will show you everything that they've previously filled out. This is where you're able to print off their form that they filled out. You can make edits to their lead, as well as see all activity that happened while they were in the lead CRM. Going back to configure, let's start with how to set up that registration form, so what the parents fill out so they can join your program. So you just come here, set up parent registration form, and click the pencil icon. You'll see here we asked for the student info, parent info, their authorized pickups, and the policies and waivers. You are able to customize this field. It's just clicking add field and choosing what kind of form you want to add, whether that's a short answer so the parents can type out their answer to you, a drop down if you want to give multiple answers, a date picker, which is good for when their birthday is or what day they're going to enroll, and then paragraph is just if you want to send a message to them, so you enter your own paragraph, but they can't respond to that. So if you want something like some information you want a response from them, use short answer instead of paragraph. With it, for student, parent, and authorized pickup, whatever you put here, the parents on the form itself, it'll have a add student button, so you don't have to enter these fields multiple times. Just put it once, and as the parents fill it out, if they have siblings or multiple children, they're able to click add child and it will repopulate the fields for them. Same thing with the parent info. add your fields, whatever information you want to gather from the parents, whether that's a second emergency contact number, their address, the relationship. You can enter all that here so that way the parents are able to fill it out, and same with the authorized pickups. The last step is the policies and waivers. These are fully customized to what your policies need to be. So if these, the defaults that we have on there don't apply to your program, that's fine. Just go ahead and hit the pencil icon and edit them so it matches what information or agreements you need from the parents. After you have everything filled out in the form, or before I continue, I just want to make note that as you fill out this form, when you add a field, make sure that you're adding it in the order that you want it to appear on the list. At current moment, we don't have a way for these fields to be able to be dragged and dropped into place. They just appear in the order that you add them to. So think very carefully what information you want to gather and what order you want to gather that information. Once we hit continue, the next step is deciding, do you want to collect registration fees up front, or do you want to hold off on that until they're further in the process? It just depends on how your enrollment process looks like. Again, one tip I can provide is that with the registration fees, if you have custom fees for the different families, or just custom fees overall for the registration process, I would recommend selecting no on collecting registration fees, because you're not able to customize this. It's just one flat rate for everyone. I'll show you in a moment how you can collect the fees in an alternative way if you do have customization that needs to be there. The third and final step is setting up your lead CRM or enrollment registration form is deciding how do you want to share the form. So the first thing is you need to make sure the form is published. So this published form icon that's up here. If it's unpublished, it means even if the parents have the link, they won't be able to see that. That's a great thing to know too. If there's ever a time that you've shared the link, but you decide, okay, I want to close my enrollment for a little bit, you can by just setting unpublished. So even if they have the link, if the button's in bed, if it's not published, they won't see the form. And on the flip side, if you forget to publish the form, they won't see it. So just make sure this says published or unpublished so you know exactly how it's showing on the screen to them. The two options you have is you can just share a link to the parents. Some schools will email it, some schools will add it to their webpage if they want their own button. Or we have a code here so you can embed this little button here that says click below for online enrollment. If that's on your page, how that will appear is when you do, I'll show preview forms, you can see my form, which it's a little blank, so I'm sure you guys will ask for more information than I have, but this is how it'll look. As long as you have your school logo uploaded into your school profile, it will appear on the form so they know, hey, this is my school, this is who I'm filling it out for. And then they would go through the fields. If you have the ability on any of the fields to mark it as required, and if it is, that's where that red asterisk will appear, and they can't continue onwards without filling out those fields. If you don't have the red asterisk there, if you don't have it marked as required, they can skip some things. So just make sure if there's something you really need from them, you have it marked as required so the parents have to fill it out. As I mentioned before, there's that add student button. So again, any information I have on there, if the parent clicks add student, it's just going to repopulate those questions. So again, those with multiple families, they're able to fill everything out at once without you having to input those fields multiple times to accommodate that. Once the parents have filled out their form, where those students will appear is here under the leads section. So you'll see one I filled out earlier, Robin Wells. She came in as waitlisted. So the first step in my enrollment pipeline. If Robin's family, one thing I also mentioned earlier was about taking an alternative method for registration fees, especially if you have custom fees. It's here on the lead CRM under leads, and right next to your leads, everyone always has those three dots. If you click that, you'll see it'll give you the option to view and print. So that's to view and print the information they filled out, edit their lead, receive payment or mark as paid. So if you put receive payment, you can actually select cash, check, or if you have your billing set up, it'll give you the option for credit card. So when you click credit card, it'll pop up the, you're able to input their credit card information so you can gather that right there, put the amount that they're paying, and take the payment that way, so you can customize that fee a little bit. Just make sure to add a description. It is required. And then submit and mark as paid. So that way it'll update and you can see exactly, oh, Tony and Cheryl did not pay for their registration, but all these other students did. And just kind of, again, keep an eye and sort exactly who's paid, who hasn't, and where they are in that enrollment. Again, as I mentioned, if you move them down to enrolled, it'll give you the option to do enroll and activate students. So once they're active, that's when they'll go to My School Students and be part of your active roster. You also have the option to schedule the enrollment. So if you know it's coming up in the future, they're not quite there yet, but maybe a month from now, you want to automate this a little bit. Put what date, schedule it, and then on that day, October 16th, they're going to move over to the active student list without you having to move them to enrolled. The other part I wanted to mention is how to communicate with your families. So once they're on the leads, so once they've enrolled, you can actually come here to communication. This gives you the option to send emails or text messages. With the emails, I'm going to jump for one quick moment, but going back to the configure page, if you want to, again, automate this process a little more, you're able to click manage templates and add new email templates. So that way you don't have to retype the same thing every single time. You can have templates already created in the system for you. So if I go back to communication, if I want to send a message, I can click new message, send email. It will show if they reply where that response will go to. So in this case, it's going to go to myself. And then I can choose from template. So if I just want to say, thank you for the inquiry, that's a sample I have in there. There are some, there's some coding in there that will pre-populate things for you. You'll find that in the help page, which I'll show in a moment how all the different codes that we have for the email templates. But if you have those on there, it will automate what you fill out. So if that's the parent's name or anything, that it's really important for the templates that you have those in there. Let me pull that up. Let's just continue on. Once you hit continue, that's when you can actually select from your leads. So right now, I'll let you know if there's any leads in there that maybe don't have an email in there. Anyone who does, though, it will send through. So if I was to send a message test and Frank Deming, it'll send that inquiry email to them. And it'll show you right here what 2 leads that message was sent to. Again, if anyone has any questions, just make sure you put those into the question space within the go to webinar. What I mentioned earlier about the codes that you can put in there for composing the message, that's in the leads here, or that's in our help.kinderlime.com. You find that in your account by clicking this question mark icon at the top of the page, and it'll bring you to all our help articles. But if you're ever curious about the coding, it's communicate with your leads. And if you scroll down, it'll show all different preset shortcuts that we have. So in your templates, you can add any of these, and it will take the information from the lead as well as information from your school profile, so you don't have to fill that out manually every time. Let the system do the work for you. Again, to also make the system work a little more for you, we added a really great new feature to the Lead CRM, which is automation. Super exciting stuff. So if you go to configure, you'll now see a new field called Setup and Manage Lead Automation. So if I click into that, I can see I've already added an automation. But if I come here to create automation, I can name the rule. So if I wanted to do enrolled, I can select when the lead status changed to enrolled, this rule applies to that lead status. So I go ahead and create that rule, and it'll let me add an action. So there's two options for this. The first one is I can have it send an email automatically. So I can choose from the templates I have in there. So if the status changed to enrolled, which this is a horrible email example to use, but we're going to go with it. I could have it say whatever message is there and then select how soon do I want it to send out? Do I want this email to send immediately as soon as their status changes to enrolled, or do I want to wait a few days and send it to them later? Once you hit save, it'll show you the template, the example of the email that's going out. And you can also add other actions. So if you want multiple emails to go out, just kind of prepping them for what's going on, or how it's going to look when they join in. Or you can also add a create task. So this is another new feature we have. You can actually assign task in the Lead CRM to your staff members. So if I want to assign it to a specific staff, I can if I want to say what type of task it is. So if I want to call, if I want to email, or if I just want to add it as a to-do check mark. You can also make a note. So what directions do you want your staff members to follow when they're marking off these tasks? I'm going to say call enrollment to congratulate them. I did not spell that right. And then when do you want that task to? So if it's created, how soon do the staff members need to complete that? And again, how soon do they need to have it completed by, or when do you want this task to be added for the staff to see? So I'm going to say immediately, and they have to have it done 2 days after they get enrolled. And then the last step is activating the automation. So that way, this rule is now active. If anyone changes to enrolled, it is going to enable this and automate it right away. You'll see any tasks that you create here, you'll see them now under the new task tab. We added this about 2 weeks ago, I think. So it's really, really new. You're able to create the task here too. So if you want to just manually create the task, you can enter that in, call, test. I'm going to assign it to test, that student. I'm going to put it as a call type. And if there's a note, call test to confirm enrollment. So that way, whoever I'm assigning it to knows exactly what I want them to complete through this task. I can enter in a due date here as well, and what time do I want that to be due by. I want it to be due at the end of day on the 11th, and I'm going to assign it to Meredith and hit save. So now that's an open task. Meredith knows that it's assigned to her. You're able to filter out from statuses. So if you want to see any past tasks that were already closed out or completed, if you want to see different due dates, look at who the different assignments. So if you have different tasks assigned to different teachers, as well as look at the different task types. So that filter is there so you can whittle it down, especially as you add more tasks in the system. If you need to edit or delete the task, you can. And then once it's completed, all you have to do is hit the open button to close it out. So that way you know that has been completed. It will cross itself out. So quick glance, I know that's taken care of. That is pretty much everything with the Lead CRM. Again, any questions, feel free to send those over. If you can't find it, just put a raise hand button. There should be a button for a question as well. That way I can direct you a little bit better. The other thing I wanted to mention is we have another new feature that came out this week, which is the ability to limit your staff view and redefine their roles within Kinderlime. So if I come here under my school, staff, if I click, I'm going to click open Meredith, for example. when you click open your staff profiles, you'll now see a new field called role and permissions. So this gives you that full ability now to determine, what do I want my staff members to see? Do I want them to, maybe they're an admin, but I don't want them to be able to change the school settings. You get to decide, do you want them to see the reports, the lead CRM, billing, staff time card, or other staff? You have full control now over what permissions they have. With the students, rooms, parent pickup, there's no way to turn off full access for that. However, you can make it where it's read only. So that way they can see the info, but they can't change it. And I think that's important to note, so that way there's no confusion on why no access is blocked out. It's just because that's, right now there's no way to completely block off the information within the rooms, students or parent pickups, but you can at least control who can edit or see that information. When you hit save, that puts those changes in live and changes their account right away to what they have access to or what they do not. The last thing I'll touch on is kind of jumping right back to Lead CRM is under the Report Center. If we scroll down, there is a report for your lead CRMs, or your leads. So you're able to just export, you can export everything that's in the lead CRM, or if you just want to look at just the waitlisted, interested, toured, admitted, whatever your enrollment pipeline is, you can actually tailor that down just to look at those specific categories. And that report will export to Excel. One question we just received is, can an enrollment form that has been created be shared with current enrolled students? No, I would highly recommend only using the lead CRM for those new and incoming families. If you share it with families that are already enrolled in the program, it will create a duplicate account for them. And you don't want that, because then you have two different accounts to look at and have to figure out how to consolidate that information. So make sure this is just reserved for those new and incoming families. This wouldn't be good for like a re-registration on the new year. What I would instead recommend, if you do have families that are re-enrolling and you need to get information from them, one workaround that we've seen is under our new Parent Connection tab is using the newsletters and creating a newsletter that explains them what you need from the registration, as well as you can attach files there. So if there's a new form that you need them to fill out, send it to them via the newsletter so they can return that to you with for the new year or the new session. And thank you for that question. That was great. Does anyone else have any other questions there? Okay. I think that's everything. If you guys do have any questions, if there's something you want to do a deeper dive into, feel free to reach out to the team here. The chat box that's within your Kinderlime account is a direct line to all of us here. We are happy to answer any questions that you may have. Just click it open and start a new conversation. Again, too, if there's anything that you want to see a deeper dive into, you can also go here to the question mark icon. That will open up our help page. And again, this has all articles that are available and on every feature we have in our system. I think we've tried to touch on anything that you can think of. It should be there. If you don't see it, chat box. That's everything from me today. I thank everyone for joining. Let's see. Oh, we did have another question come through. Where can I find other pre-recorded webinars? This is one of our first ones, so we don't have it. This will be recorded, and we will send out a link to the recordings. If you would like this recording, feel free to use the chat, and I'll get that over to you as soon as I get it uploaded. We do add webinars to our YouTube channel, and that's where I'll be uploading this one. It will be on YouTube. If you just put in Kinderlime, that's us, we'll have all our webinars there. So we have some ones that we've recently re-uploaded there, such as how to print the student sign-in and emergency roll call list. There's an aftercare webinar and a daycare webinar. And then we also have learning, lesson plans, and milestone tracking. As we go through this a little bit further, we'll also add these weekly webinars to this channel, where our goal is every Friday coming up, and we'll send out a invitation via the chat box so you guys know when those are happening and what time. If you have a suggestion for a better time, this is ever changing. Let us know what time you think would be best so we can take that into note and make adjustments as we go to make sure everyone's accommodated. But again, that's everything for me. Any questions, send them our way through the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on it today. Thank you everyone for joining. You guys are amazing.